so well. On the day that I left you, I made a mistake. I could tell when a southern breeze gave a last embrace. I was caught on the tide that was rushing from place to place. Back in the wild, there's a sun, and it shines there all the time. Going home to the smile on the faces of kids to remind me to buy a smile. Back in the wild, there's a song, and they sing it there all the time. I can hear in the crowd, there's a voice to be heard, and I heard it singing out loud. I lost track, but as long as you're calling, I know I can find my way back. No hoist the sail, I'm homeward bound. I'm longing to feel my feet standing on my ground. There's a sun, and it shines there all the time. Going home to the smile on the faces of kids who remind me to buy a smile. Back in the wild, there's a song, and they sing it there all the time. I can hear in the crowd, there's a voice to be heard, and I heard it singing out loud. Back in the wild, there's a sun, and it shines there all the time.
Dubai, the most cosmopolitan city in the Gulf. It is a city of absolutes, the most vital, most sophisticated, most enterprising, and with its mixture of modernity and tradition, many would describe it as the most attractive. All this in 20 years, a mere hesitation in the span of history. Dubai's growth has been phenomenal. It came with the oil industry, but not totally because of it. The city's past, its present, and undoubtedly its future are linked inexorably to the pursuit of trade. There is considerable pride in the fact that oil was largely the icing on an already substantial cake. Dubai was built from the desert and the sea, and in these its roots remain. The desert, a forbidding place only to strangers, provided a living for generations of Arab tribesmen with their herds of animals and an almost enviable simplicity of life. The sea was and is the reason for Dubai's commercial prosperity. Across these sometimes turbulent waters of the Arabian Gulf, trading dhows carried exotic cargoes from Asia and Africa for barter in the marketplaces. Fishermen and pearl divers plundered the depths and came home to Dubai with their harvests. On the edges of the creek, a natural waterway that divides Dubai, houses of mud, coral and stone were formed, and their inhabitants protected from the heat of the summer by sea breezes funneled down the wind towers. The tribesmen brought their camels to the flourishing market in the rapidly growing town, where fresh fish and the products of distant lands could be bought. The pearling fleets, which once employed 22,000 men in what were then the Trucial states, added greatly to Dubai's economy. The pearl divers captured the essence of a terrible beauty. Theirs was a crippling occupation that enriched only a few of them. At the end of several months of the kind of exhaustion that no one today could comprehend, they would drop their sails and row into Dubai Creek, sweat glistening on their shoulders and shaven heads, lifted by the spirit of the old traditional sea shanties, and led in almost eerie unison by the voice of the Naham and the staccato of the drums. At one time, the combined boats of Dubai, Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah and Abu Dhabi numbered more than 1,000. With the arrival of the Japanese cultured pearl, the industry in the Gulf slowed to a halt. Now what is left today are a few old men with distant memories and some of the finest pearls the world has ever seen. The trading dhows still line the creek, busier now perhaps than it ever was. The creek is a pocket of colourful bustle in a city that has always bustled. It cuts through the heart of the city. Dubai on the one side, Deira on the other. On its sun-dancing golden ripples, the Abras, tiny water taxis, chug from side to side, carrying passengers past huge, big-bellied dhows. Some, their hulls down in the water, heavy laden, and still taking on cargo. Others floating high and empty, the crewmen painting and repairing, waiting for orders and shipments for India, Iran, Pakistan, and some perhaps bound for Mombasa and the spice island of Zanzibar. The Arabs were traders almost from the beginning of time. It is an honourable occupation. Some have moved their operations from the pavements of the marketplaces to the penthouses of the gleaming skyscrapers, where they can look down on their origins and be proud of them. Every day, tens of millions of dollars pass through the banks and business houses that abound in Dubai. It's one of the biggest financial centers in the Middle East, and the flow of money is as free and regular as the tidal waters of the creek. Re-export is the name of the game. A couple of decades ago, approximately 1/10 of the free world's annual gold supply passed down this waterway, and Dubai still imports the equivalent of 12 watches per year per head of population. The dhows that today head out to sea piled high with refrigerators, air conditioning units, washing machines, motorcycles, and even small pickup trucks also brought the first visitors to Dubai. And there still remain in the city a few Europeans, a very few, who can remember their first sight of the Trucial coast sitting atop bags of flour and coffee, removing their socks and shoes to wade apprehensively ashore. Later they arrived by ship, and by the great lumbering flying boats of the romantic years of aviation. As they touched down on the creek, these aircraft, pride of the Imperial Airways fleet, must have looked like futuristic dreams to the people lining the banks of the inlet. They would tie up here, at a wooden jetty just below where the Al Maktoum Bridge now stands, and their passengers on the long flight of several weeks from Southampton to Australia were helped ashore and driven across the desert to the fort built by Imperial Airways in Sharjah. With no hotels of any standard in the Gulf in the late 30s, the fort was the best and safest place for an overnight halt. It still stands, virtually intact, but in decay and awaiting the attentions of the preservationists. It's an impressive building with heavy steel doors that were locked at night and rifle slots in the guard turrets. Two measures designed to protect the passengers and crew from the possibility of raiding tribesmen. The great walls, built from stone quarried on Abu Musa Island, look no different from the day the last bricklayer put down his trowel. But rubbish is scattered across the great courtyards, and the huge cannon that was the centerpiece of the main yard has long gone. At times, more than 100 passengers were accommodated here, most from the planes that landed at the old Sharjah airport next door, whose runway is now a city road. The tiny rooms were built facing into the courtyard. There was a bar and mess hall in one corner. On the flat roof above the rooms, passengers and crew would dance to the music of wind-up gramophones, enveloped in the spirit of adventure and the balmy air of romantic Arabian nights. In the morning, the huge doors were rolled back, and the passengers driven around the top of the creek to continue their journeys east or west. They left behind an aura that still permeates the fort. With a little imagination, you can smell the excitement of those incredible days of flying. Today's traveler to Dubai experiences adventures of a different, softer nature. Where the journey by air from Europe once took 6 or 7 days, it can be accomplished now in as many hours, aboard luxurious, wide-bodied jets. From the capital cities of the world, around 40 international airlines regularly serve Dubai.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. What time does that go to Dubai? 12 o'clock. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, I have no baggage. I'll take them. And I'll check it. Yes.
Lanka 512, you have to take off on 834, wind 280 degrees 4 knots.
This Air Lanka TriStar from Gatwick and Zurich is typical of the dozens of carriers who have made Dubai one of the busiest airports in the Middle East. A business trip to the Gulf is far removed from the fearsome expedition yesterday's travellers had to reckon with. All today's executive needs is an awareness of his market and the local customs. He can even leave behind the phrase book. English is the business language, although some knowledge of Arabic greetings and responses is a common courtesy. An abundance of pleasant surprises awaits the first-time visitor to the city and the surrounding area. Dubai's luxurious hotels have set new standards in service and comfort, standards envied by their European counterparts and unimagined by the temporary residents of the old Sharjah fort just a few decades ago. The hotel should be sampled like the rare cuisine they serve. Competition has given them an additional incentive to provide nothing but the best, and the guest is spoiled in a way he could seldom expect elsewhere. With international travel an everyday matter-of-fact occurrence, and the Gulf one of the last remaining regions of real business opportunity, it's small wonder that these hotels are perpetually busy. Air and sea transport and the purchasing power of a wealthy consumer society ensure that the products of the world are all available in Dubai. First-class restaurants serve the finest Scotch beef, flown in daily, and with locally produced prawns and other seafood, good living is taken for granted. Much of the social life in the city revolves around the hotels. They provide an enormity of entertainment, and visitors walking down Al Maktoum Street have been staggered to spot faces more familiar to Shaftesbury Avenue in London's West End.
My name's Derek Nimmo. I'm an actor. And I first came to Dubai in 1976, almost by accident. I wasn't quite sure where it was, but to do cabaret. Things were very different then. I performed at the Intercontinental Hotel over there, which at the time was by far and away the largest building in town and the only five-star hotel. The only other hotel was of any consequence was in fact an old Greek steamer which had been towed up and anchored along here behind me in the creek, except it was further over, because where I'm actually standing was at that time water, and over beyond me was just sand. Things were enormously different. I was here in '79 for the Queen's visit, and those gardens there were just sand, and we had a rickety old stand to watch Her Majesty arrive. Now Dubai It's one of the most exciting and thriving cities, I suppose, in the world, certainly in the Middle East. It is filled with many kinds of entertainment, splendid beaches, of course, wonderful beaches, tremendous sailing, water skiing. You've got things like ice rinks. I mean, there are 2 ice rinks in Dubai. There's a marvelous pleasure garden, and there is a lot of theatre, because from 1979, to coincide with Queen's, I started putting on plays here in Dubai. The concept of dinner theatre, people come and dine first, and then see a play. And we've managed to bring here some of the biggest names in the British theatre. We do mainly comedy. People like Leslie Phillips, Terry Scott, Nora Lister, Bernard Cribbin, Gerald Harper, Son Williams, Mike Dennison, Eric Sykes, Jimmy Edwards, and so on. Peggy Miles. Many stars of the British comedy world come out here to Dubai. And it has really been the most tremendous fun to put on plays here. And it's astonishing to think that here in Dubai, a play can run for nearly 3 weeks, where in England today, in Manchester, Birmingham, or indeed even in Glasgow, a play will not run for more than 7 days. Dubai is an astonishing place.
It would be easy to assume from the superficial aspects of life in Dubai that the city's links with its heritage and traditions have been quietly overtaken. It would also be a major mistake. The people of Dubai, as they watch their city grow at an incredible pace, have remained totally true to their Islamic faith. And evidence of this can be found around almost every corner, in the beauty of the mosques that add another dimension to the skyline. In the city, in the towns and villages of Dubai and the Northern Emirates, the mosque is a focal point of daily life, and the calls to prayer echo 5 times a day across the rooftops and around the concrete canyons. The rapid and large-scale construction that took place in Dubai in the boom years of the 70s was carefully watched over by His Highness Sheikh Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai. He made sure that the emirate never lost sight of its origins. The unique blend of old traditions and new technology exists mainly because of Sheikh Rashid's far-sightedness. By adopting only the better aspects of the Western way of life and combining them with those of the Arab world, Dubai has found some of the attributes of a modern utopia. It's certainly regarded as that by the many expatriates who make up the majority of the workforce. The facilities that are available to the English-speaking residents are probably better than anything they've encountered in their home countries. Excellent schools, luxurious housing, air conditioning to combat even the fiercest heat, supermarkets and department stores, the chariots of Detroit, Europe and Japan, all of them are found in Dubai. And for ultra-sophistication, how about a poolside fashion show?
There is a garden somewhere in the shadow of a butterfly, lies beyond the gates of dark and light, and darling, it belongs to me. When you go there, there will be such laughter in the devil's sky. The song they sing will drive away the night. The magic garden has a way of making you feel free. It's the place I made for you.
Strange to think there was a time when European and American companies sending personnel to the Gulf regarded these assignments as hardship postings. Unbelievably, some still do. All that's hard about Dubai is the climate in the summer and the currency all the year round. There's no doubt that everyone earns their salaries. A 6-day working week is normal, which is undoubtedly why they attack their leisure time so vigorously.
Run around after that one. That's just the wing. Send the dog after that one. Go.
Rally driving is one of the many sporting imports from Europe that's become firmly established in the Gulf. It was originally dominated by experienced European expatriates, but such was the strength of local enthusiasm that within 6 years it produced an Arab Gulf champion in Saeed Al-Hajri. This is the Dubai Rally, a fiercely contested event which takes the cars across the desert and into the mountains of Hatta. Driving through the dust of the day and over treacherous rocky terrain, only the fittest will survive. But then, it's always been that way in this hostile terrain. The rally is held every year in December, when the sun is kinder to those who venture out. In fact, almost all the major outdoor sports take place during the months between October and April.
You get out of sequence very...
An Emirates winter is like an ideal European summer, warm and friendly, and with just enough rain and the occasional storm to remind us of the many aspects of nature. The environment lends itself to leisure activity, and there's good reasoning behind the suggestion that Dubai and Sharjah are the biggest recreation centres in the Gulf. And it doesn't matter at all if you're an expert in your sport or just a determined beginner. It's the enjoyment that counts.
Some curious layers of go in the rock.
Water plays an important part in so many of these activities, and for the dedicated big game angler, the prolific waters of the Gulf offer incredible sport.
Put some action on your rock.
Oh, you got him! No, you got him! Woohoo! There he is again! There he is again! I got him! Woohoo! I got him! I got him! He's coming again! There he is again!
He wasn't quite ready, Raymond.
The magnificent sailfish of the Indian Ocean begin their run up the Gulf in the early winter and continue well into the onset of the hot weather. Huge shoals of bonito turn the sea into a boiling mass as they chase the small fry, and they in turn are chased by the sailfish.
At the moment.
For these anglers, this is the stuff that dreams are made of.
Let him take it
The
out.
classic confrontation of man and fish, immortalized by Hemingway and Zane Grey. But today, it ends quite differently to the traditional kill. These beautiful creatures are no longer slaughtered and hung up as trophies on the dockside, but are scientifically tagged and returned alive to the water. Another fisherman, perhaps a year later and 1,000 kilometers away, will hook the same sailfish and send the fish's weight and tag details to the International Game Fishing Association. In this way, a knowledge of the habits of the species, a migratory and breeding pattern will be formed, and this will assist man in his efforts to guarantee its future survival.
Well then, Mr. Raymond...
Conservation is the key to the prosperity of marine life, and it's happening within sight of the city of Dubai. A little way over that horizon, another kind of conservation is well underway. The safeguarding of Dubai's vital and precious supply of fresh water is a fascinating story of achievement. Before the age of technology reached this area, the only available water was raised by bucket from brackish wells on the edge of the city. Your hair would stand on end when you washed in it, an old-time resident recalled. The first sweet water came from Awir, 30 kilometers along a single narrow pipeline. In the early 1960s, the daily flow of 400,000 gallons was sufficient for Dubai's needs. Construction changed all that. The demand for water soared with the scaffolding, and for the men of the Dubai Water Department, the building boom marked the beginning of a continuous battle to prevent the tap running dry. In any desert situation, water is undoubtedly the most precious commodity, and the speed of Dubai's growth has depended greatly on a constant and increasing supply. Today, the city uses about 40 million gallons every day, most of it from the huge desalination plants at Jebel Ali. Today, there are over 1,700 kilometers of pipes, and more are being laid. The original wells at Awir, Wahush, and Hibab are kept mainly in reserve. A multitude of small private wells still provide the nourishment for local crops and livestock, but the chain of pumping stations that serve Dubai so well are often silent now, as the water table replenishes itself. Throughout the Emirates today, there is greenery beyond the imagination of the early residents. Fields of crops and gardens of flowers flourish where there was once just sand and scrub. Birds and butterflies, and a miracle of natural wildlife have grown among them.
Somewhere in the shadow of a butterfly, lies beyond the gates of dark and light, it belongs to me. If you go there will be such laughter in the devil's sky. The song to sing will drive away the night. The magic garden has a way of making you feel
Sparkling fountains celebrate the water department's successes, and on the roadsides and roundabouts there is a magnificent proliferation of plants, flowers and trees, the result of recycled water and man's ingenuity. The desert itself remains largely untroubled by human challenge. Across the dunes and the vast empty crust, great highways now link the cities, towns and villages. Along these, vehicles appear like mirages in a heat haze. Lorries carrying cement from Ras Al Khaimah, containers from the busy ports of Jebel Ali and Dubai, vegetables from the oasis town of Diyar, and livestock from Fujairah and the east coast. The desert has permitted all this and the coming of agriculture. Its size and grandeur remains untouched by these relatively minor incursions. It even allows a newer form of invasion from the modern tourist. Not a massive rush of package deal pleasure seekers, but a quiet trickle, as undisturbing as the flow of sand in a time glass. The desert safari is a journey more of contemplation than comfort into an untamed world. In this barren land, where the trees thrust down roots 40 meters and more to find water, and where only the ubiquitous camel can live with apparent ease, these four-wheel-driven discoverers venture forth with a sense of wonder and appreciation. There's something magical about a campfire at night, the crackle of brushwood, and the sweet smell of the desert under the gaze of the planet. Then there's the delightful surprise of the crystal waters of a mountain spring to cool the body and refresh the mind. Where next? The safari adventurer is likely to ask. And the guide might reply, we'll head across the Whispering Sands, around the old fortress of the hill tribesmen, and we'll stop for a moment by the home of the Bedouin camel herder just to pass the time of day. the landmarks of another era. His is a lifestyle unchanged in a never-changing world, and only because he wants it that way. And there are others like him. In the small coastal settlements and even within the cities, the working life of the fisherman has varied little with the years, improved only by the modern advantage of powerful outboard engines which send these fragile craft speeding through the waves. He sets his traps and nets in much the manner as his forefathers did, and certainly there's no difference in the variety of their contents or in the atmosphere of the fish soup where his catches are sold. The market is full of the chatter of many tongues, all of them in frantic employment at the same time, shouting for quarters, haggling over the prices of hamur, snapper, kingfish, dorado and large-bodied prawns, greeting old friends and new customers with the same enthusiasm. In the vegetable souk nearby, there's the earthy smell of sacks of grain and potatoes, the rich colors of shining red apples and deep purple aubergine, the crops of the local and the world's harvest. While little will alter the mentality of these marketplaces, the souks are changing physically, of course. In the prosperous, development-conscious world of the Gulf, the maze-like alleyways are disappearing, and with them, some of the magic of the souk. The new Gold Souk in Dubai has all the air-conditioned comforts of a department store, and the magnificent new souk at Sharjah, so strikingly modeled on the wooden-towered architecture of old, dominates much of the city. The true philosophy of the trader is epitomized in the sale and purchase of gold. Regardless of the exquisite craftsmanship that goes into the making of bangles and bracelets, each piece is priced purely by the weight. The intricate design? Well, that's just a selling point. The visitor may begin to realize then that the souks cannot be changed entirely, any more than Arabia and the desert itself can be changed. The location may alter, the appearance may become more sophisticated, but the essential spirit of the place will remain the same. The comparisons between old and new are numerous and unavoidable. They become inevitable basically because what is old is not very old, and what is new is ultra-modern. And it all happened in such a very short time. That's the wonder of it. 20 years ago, this was the home of the Dubai municipality, the body that sets the standards for health and hygiene, for road building, the construction industry, and for the multitude of other factors that are involved in the management of the city. The painted trellis work fails to disguise the ravages of the environment, but it still stands there, gently crumbling, as a reminder of Dubai's humble but proud beginnings. Only a few hundred meters along the creek stands the new municipality building, so futuristic in design that the contrast between the two is staggering. Eventually, the old offices may give way to a modern apartment block or a glass-fronted skyscraper, but in the meantime, it provides part of that vital link between past and present. The new building, architecturally appealing to the traditional Arab requirements for water and shade, was the result of a design competition, and its planners captured all that was in the minds of those who saw the potential. The dimensions of the municipality's work today requires this space and more. For the visiting businessman, it's commercially important to call there to discuss his obligations and his requirements.
Well, your friendly equipment supplies with all local and international situations. Well, thank you for all your help. I'll call you when I get back to Dubai next month. Inshallah. I like you, by the way.
What he learns may require him to stay a little longer in Dubai. Once upon a time, he would have had to walk down to the flat sands of the creekside where the weekly light aircraft landed, explain his delay to the pilot, perhaps give him a hand to turn the plane around. Now, it's a phone call or a quick trip to the airline office.
Good morning. I'd like to see the flight tomorrow to the flight.
Okay, your flight is confirmed on US 511, flying Zurich on the 6th of May, departing at 3:45 in the morning. You have to check in at 1.5 hours earlier. Okay, and it's confirmed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, welcome. Have a pleasant flight.
Bye. Another insight into Dubai's rate and quality of growth is the fact that until the late 70s, it did not have its own newspaper. Today, the Arabic Al Bayan is one of the most quoted in the Arab world, and no English-speaking resident would start his day without the Khalij Times, the biggest newspaper of its kind in the Gulf. Every morning around 3 o'clock it rolls off the presses and is delivered to the door 3 hours later, or is sold in abundance at the city's traffic lights. Dubai's own television station offers Arabic and English viewing on different channels. The commercial radio station provides the latest hits by the latest stars in the fluctuating charts of popular music. The media, then, is thriving, and this in turn has given birth to a substantial advertising industry, one that is aware of Dubai's ever-growing significance as a marketing center for the region. The towering Dubai International Trade Center, the tallest building in the Arab world, is the home of numerous regional fairs and exhibitions, from the highly specialized to the down-to-earth and purely commercial annual Dubai Spring Fair, a 10-day shopping and entertainment extravaganza that attracts very large crowds and some fairly original showmen. The Trade Center, one of the most prestigious addresses in town, also houses many of the offices of companies involved in the oil supply industry, evidence of which is seen the length and breadth of the creek. Great ocean-going tugs, support vessels, and tall skeletal platforms are all part of the offshore oil industry. With the dhows and the abras, they add color and contrast to the life of the waterway. A few kilometers up the coast at Sharjah, an emirate with considerable activity in gas and oil exploration and exploitation, the scene is virtually identical. Sharjah's own creek is alive with the mixtures of old and new. Beside the new fish souk, the vessels that service the oil platforms are tied up, ready for their next trip, and the hum of industrial activity in the repair yards is curiously sympathetic to the traditional setting. The coastline of the Northern Emirates meanders around dozens of similar creeks and inlets, and in some, particularly at Ras Al Khaimah, there is little to suggest the intrusions of the 20th century. The beauty of all this, of the great expanses of wilderness and of the high-rise teeming city life, is that it is untainted by the excesses of the modern age. In the desert, not even the so-called comforts of that age have intruded upon the lifestyle, and in the cities, crime is virtually non-existent by comparison to Western society. For the city-dwelling expatriates and overseas visitors in the luxury of their air-conditioned homes and hotels, it's hard for them to believe that only a few hours' journey away, in the rugged Hajjah mountains of Ras Al Khaimah, men still live without a knowledge or requirement of the technological revolution, and very little concern for the industrial one either. And even closer to the sounds of the city, it's not uncommon to see a sight like this. A Bedouin with his camel, resting for a moment in the middle of a busy roundabout, indifferent to and undisturbed by the clamor of encircling traffic. It would be easy to portray this as the essence of Dubai, as typical of the coming together of apparently contradictory forces. Certainly it is a part of it, but only a small part. The essence of Dubai is in the huge office blocks, in the sea-going dhows, and in the banks, and in the homes, and in the mosques. It's everywhere, and in everything. The architects and the builders may have given Dubai a new face, but they have not meddled with the beliefs, the philosophies, and the traditions of the people. The essence of Dubai, and of Arabia itself, is in the mind.
so well. On the day that I left you, I made a mistake I could tell. When a southern breeze gave a last embrace, I was caught on the tide and was rushing from place to place. Back in Dubai, there's a sun and it shines there all the time. Going home to the smile on the faces of people remind me Dubai is mine. Back in Dubai, there's a song and they sing it there all the time.
Bye.